Hello and welcome back to the Bookshelf Odyssey. My name is Art, and we are exploring my bookshelves today. And this is my weekly wrap up. I finished 2 books this week and made some progress through Emma. So let's go ahead and dive in and find out what I read this week. So, like I said, 2 books I've read. The first one was a cozy mystery in the Coffee House Mystery Series by Cleo Coyle, and it was called Holiday Buzz. And yeah, it was a Christmas book, but it was the next one in the series. So I had to read it. I can't just be skipping books in series. That's just not allowed. Sorry. So this is the 12th book in the series, and this is what it's about. It says holiday time is party time in New York City, but after a sparkling winter bash ends with a murder, Village Blend coffee house manager Claire Cosey vows to put the killer on ice. I love that. At the Great New York Cookie Swap, pastry chefs bake up their very best for charity. Claire is in charge of the beverage service, and her famous fa la la lattes make the gathering even merrier. But her high spirits come crashing down to earth when she discovers the battered body of a hardworking baker's assistant. Police suspect a serial attacker whose escalating crimes have become known as the Christmas Stockings. Claire's boyfriend, NYPD Detective Mike Quinn, finds reason to believe even more sinister forces are involved. Claire isn't so sure, and when she finds a second bludgeoned baker, she becomes a target. Now Claire is spending the holiday season poring over clues, and she's not going to rest until justice is served. Coffee puns all aside, this was another fun entry into the series. I like the previous one better. I read it just in December, I think it was, but it was still good, and I'm not tired of the series yet. I thought maybe I was getting a little bit tired of it, but then I switched to listening to it on audio, and that really helped quite a bit. I think she has such a wide range of characters, and hearing the narrator, she does such a great job with giving each character their own personality and voice and accent. It really makes the characters come to life, which I think was really helpful to me to continue to enjoy the series. Some of the things I didn't care for in the book, and this has kind of been an ongoing plot point, is the relationship with her and her boyfriend, Mike Quinn. I mean, I like their relationship. I just wish Mike was in the books more because I really enjoy watching them interact. But even in the early books, it seemed like they didn't have a lot of page time, and that Claire had more page time with her ex husband than with her current boyfriend. And and there's this subplot going on now where Mike is working in Washington, D.C. and doing some kind of top secret investigation for the FBI. I think he's on loan to them, but I could see that being a kind of a plot conflict coming up here soon. Also, this one and especially the last one were a little bit more racier, and the language was a little more, there was a little more bad language in it than in your typical cozy, which was surprising. But it is New York City, and I feel like it's probably tame compared to what is typically thrown around in New York City. So do just be aware of that going in. But overall, it's a good cozy series with a good mystery. That as once again Claire gets caught up in the mystery. The murders themselves seem also a little more brutal than you would find in a cozy mystery, especially because with the opening murder, you are there with the killer as he beats her to death, and that's was kind of disturbing to find that in a cozy mystery. It was pretty rough, but so if you like your cozy mysteries with just a little bit of edge to it, this series would be a good one for you. But yeah, not really a whole lot to add. It's just another fine addition in the Claire Cozy Mysteries. I love her coffee making scenes. I love how she describes how to make coffee. The characters can come off as a bit of a coffee snob. I myself, I love a good cup of coffee, but I'm fine with Folgers. I think it tastes great, and they don't always have some nice things to say about some of the middle to lower brand coffees. But I can't afford to drink at a coffee house every day, so you get what you can afford, I guess. That was the first book I read or finished this past week, and the second book I finished this past week was one of the most interesting nonfiction books I think I've read in a very long time. It's called The Sociopath Next Door, and it's by Dr. Martha Stout. Someone on my podcast recommended that book to me, and I can't remember which guest it was, but anyway, I thought I'd pick it up because it sounded really fascinating, and it was definitely. Here's what the book's about. Who is the devil you know? Is it your lying, cheating ex husband, your sadistic high school gym teacher, your boss who loves to humiliate people in meetings, the colleague who stole your idea and passed it off as her own? In the pages of The Sociopath Next Door, you will realize that your ex was not just misunderstood, he's a sociopath. And your boss, teacher, and colleague, they may be sociopaths too. Now, the introduction here is making it sound like everybody was a sociopath. Your ex-boyfriend, if he broke up with you, that means he's a sociopath. That's not what she's saying at all in the book. Is that yeah, they're not as common, but they are probably more common than we realize. And we think of sociopaths as violent criminals or serial killers, murderers, people without a conscience. And while that's true, they don't have a conscience. Not all of them are criminals. Some of them are, she said that a lot of them tend to be in fields like in the political field. She talks about some that were doctors. One, in fact, was a psychologist that kind of played with her patients' minds a bit. It was really unsettling, to be honest, but it was a very, very good book. And what I enjoyed about this book is that it's very readable. Dr. Stout writes so clearly about her research and her studies that I did not feel lost at all, even though I don't have a biology degree or a psychology degree. I understood what she was talking about and what she was explaining, and some of the science behind what makes a sociopath. Is it nature versus nurture? She goes into that. I'm sorry, just kind of a side note. You might hear my parakeet in the background. His name is Pickwick, and then we have another parakeet named Daisy, and they're pretty loud. So anyway, it really helped me understand them a little bit in their behavior and to kind of identify people in my own life that might be that. Fortunately, it doesn't look like I'm a sociopath. I'm pretty happy about that. I guess if I was a sociopath, I wouldn't have any feeling about that. I don't know. But anyway, she has, along with that, she also has a very helpful chapter on narcissism and how narcissism and sociopathy kind of overlap. But just because you're a narcissist doesn't make you a sociopath. And this book also, I thought, felt very relevant to honestly, to our political landscape, which was unsettling because as she's describing sociopaths, and especially those who would get into a high powered position, like in politics, she described behavior of a lot of our politicians today that kind of makes sense as to what they're doing. If not sociopaths, definitely narcissism is at work. And that's kind of unsettling, to be honest. She also includes some information that's helpful on what to do if you have and realize you have someone who might be a sociopath in your life. And doesn't mean again that they're murderers or violent criminals, but you will want to be careful and you will want to keep your distance for sure. She kind of talks you through how to deal with that when that person is in your life. And then I just want to share some quotes from the book because she had some very good quotes and applications that she makes from her study. She says, first of all, that sociopaths have no regard whatsoever for the social contract, but they do know how to use it to their advantage. And all in all, I am sure that if the devil existed, he would want us to feel very sorry for him. And there she was talking about how sociopaths will manipulate your emotions in your life to feel sorry for them, even while they themselves take complete and utter advantage of you. And that's where I can kind of see some overlaps in with politicians. That they they manipulate us, they butter us up, they control us, or they can if we're not careful, and they take advantage of us in the whole time we're feeling sorry for them and the struggles they might have gone through or whatever. I don't know. Maybe I'm way off base here. Another quote she makes is, after listening for almost 25 years to the stories my patients tell me about sociopaths who have invaded and injured their lives, when I am asked, how can I tell whom not to trust? The answer I give usually surprises people. Their natural expectation is that I will describe some sinister sounding detail of behavior or snippet of body language or threatening use of language that is the subtle giveaway. Instead, I take people aback by assuring them that the tip off is none of these things, for none of these things is reliably present. Rather, the best clue is, of all things, the pity play. The most reliable sign, the most universal behavior of unscrupulous people is not directed, as one might imagine, at our fearfulness. It is perversely an appeal to our sympathy. And then another quote to kind of put this in a practical situation, one that you might run into. She says, maybe you cannot be the CEO of a multinational corporation, but you can frighten a few people, or cause them to scurry around like chickens, or steal from them, or, maybe best of all, create situations that cause them to feel bad about themselves. And this is power, especially when the people you manipulate are superior to you in some way. Most invigorating of all is to bring down people who are smarter or more accomplished than you, or perhaps classier, more attractive, or popular, or morally admirable. This is not only good fun, it is existential vengeance. And without a conscience, it is amazingly easy to do. You quietly lie to the boss or to the boss's boss, cry some crocodile tears, or sabotage a coworker's project, or gaslight a patient or child, bait people with promises, or provide a little misinformation that will never be traced back to you. And she writes about how easy it is, and she gives illustrations of actual people who have actually done these things. They're sociopaths, and they're in the workplace, and they're people that she has ended up counseling because of this, or people that they have impacted. So yeah, I really enjoyed that book quite a bit, and I would recommend that if that's a topic you're interested in exploring more. And I would recommend you go out and read it. And then I was able to get through chapter 7 through 12 of Emma this week. I know I'm making some progress. How about that? Chapter 7 through 12 cover Robert Martin proposes to Harriet, and she's all in a flutter about it. And speaking of manipulation, Emma just skillfully manipulates Harriet into rejecting Robert Martin's proposal. And Harriet herself then begins to almost put on airs because that's what Emma is doing, and she's following after Emma's pattern. In chapter 8, we get Mr. Knightley and Emma talking about this proposal. And I love that Mr. Knightley describes Robert Martin as a good friend, and that he's friends with him, and that Robert comes to him for advice, and that he gave him advice to marry Harriet. I think what a great contrast here between Emma and Mr. Knightley. Emma looks at Robert Martin and says, oh, you're beneath me. You're a farmer. I can't spend time with him. And if my best friend marries Robert Martin, then I can't spend time with her. But Mr. Knightley is saying the exact opposite, that even though maybe he is at a lower social standing, he considers him a friend and helps give him advice and helps him out. I think it just further cements in my mind what a wonderful character Mr. Knightley is, and that guys, we could do we'd do well to follow his example. Maybe maybe cool it a little bit on giving our opinion to all women. Mr. Knightley can come across a bit opinionated, but I think in his heart he's a good man, and that's seen here in the way that he is friends with a farmer, even though he's a gentleman. Chapter 9, I love chapter 9, especially in the movie version that I'm talking about all the time. Emma gets some riddles from Mr. Elton, and Miss Emma thinks that Mr. Elton is falling in love with Harriet, when we all know who he's really falling in love with. But Harriet just cannot figure out these riddles. And I got to tell you, Harriet, don't feel bad. I'm also terrible at riddles. Just to summarize that conversation, I think the movie does such a great job when she's like reads the first poem, and then Harriet says something like, "Is it a mermaid? Is it a trident? Oh, shall we ever know?" She is it a, at first she thinks, is it a poem about sharks? And Emma's like, why would it be a poem about sharks? Give me that. And anyway, I love it. It cracks me up every time because that's me. Giving a riddle, and even like another famous riddle scene in The Hobbit. When Gollum and Bilbo will have that contest of riddles, and they're giving them back and forth, and I'm like, I have no idea. Gollum would have eaten me if I had been Bilbo. Okay. And then chapter 10, Emma is really trying to get Harriet and Elton to hook up. She gives them time alone, and all they can talk about is celery root, and it's just things aren't happening as quickly as she thought they would. And then chapter 11 and 12 come around. Mr. John Knightley comes to visit. That's Mr. Knightley's brother, so not to be confusing or anything. And Mr. Knightley and Emma sort of make up from their fight that they had in chapter 8. We find that there is kind of a big age difference between Mr. Knightley and Emma, one that was not quite as unusual, I guess, back in the day. But I mean, today, even people who are 16 years apart are getting married and hooking up and all that, especially if you're rich and a celebrity. So I guess this tracks. But as long as they're both of legal age and they're both in a healthy consensual relationship, then go for it. I guess. Personally, I don't have the energy to keep up with someone 16 years younger than me. Let's see. Now I want to know how old would that be? Oh, 28. Yikes. I guess maybe. Well, that'll be it for me today. Well, let me know in the comments below what you've been reading this week. Do you like cozy mysteries? And if you do, what's your favorite series? I would love to read more books about the human brain, the mind, what makes people behave the way they do. So if you have any good recommendations for that, let me know as well in the comments below, and I'll add those to my TBR list, and we'll keep our conversation going there. So that'll be it for me today. I hope you have a great week reading, and until next time, take care.